right, welcome to this live webinar. Now that your wedding is postponed, what's next? But today we'll be covering how you can move forward if your wedding was postponed due to the pandemic. First it was recommended to not gather in groups of 10 or more. Then it went even further with social distancing. From there was no way of events and weddings even taking place at all. But it's not all bad. There's always a silver lining when things like this happen. And from Aloha Bridal Connections, we have Natalie Christensen and Julie Arui. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome. Thank you so much for
Yes.
having us.
No problem. So you know what? Before we cover things and before we go over just the the content that we have for you today, let's talk about Aloha Bridal Connections a little bit more. Let's go to Natalie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Natalie. I'm one of ABC's owners and the operations manager. Aloha Bridal Connections, or ABC, is a wedding coordination company, and we specialize in logistics, vendor connections, and more. Our website is a huge resource for couples planning all around the islands and the mainland as well. But our ABC team is based on Oahu and Kauai, but we help couples all across Big Island and Maui as well.
All right, and then you guys do just an amazing job just with planning itself, and I had to reach out to you guys because just the creativity you guys have and just the knowledge that you have. And one of the things that makes ABC Weddings, Aloha Bridal Connections, very unique because Julie, as a planner, you were actually a bride that was supposed to get married in April, right? Or this month itself, right? Tell us about a little bit about that.
Yes. So I'm just a little over a week of my date that I was supposed to get married on April 25th. As the COVID-19 situation started to incline and get worse, and I made the decision before it was mandated to have events with, more than 10 people. I decided to postpone. It was the right decision. It just seemed like the right thing to do just because I didn't want to put my guests in danger with family not being able to travel from the mainland. It was almost an easy decision because it was the right thing to do, but emotionally it was hard to decide that we weren't going to have our wedding anymore.
And how did your fiance feel about that too? Because we always hear like the bride's perspective on things, but how did Mike feel about knowing that maybe the wedding's going to be postponed?
Of course, he was bummed out and he just wanted to get hitched. He was like, let's just go to the courthouse and do this thing. And so he just wanted to get married, of course. So he's bummed out, but ultimately he is seeing the positive side of things too, and just having more time to look at our finances and polish things up for the wedding, or possibly even do something different for the wedding, or do something different with our funds. We're in a position where we do want to be homeowners next. So purchasing a home and downsizing the wedding could be an option for us. So for him, he's kind of looking at the bigger picture for us and, just different things that we can do with the time that we have.
So do you feel like just the brides and the grooms, or just the couples in general that you've been working with, you feel like just for ABC weddings, you feel like that's something that they've all been feeling?
Absolutely. So we've had a different range of emotions going through our couples, our brides, with just being frustrated. It straight up just sucks. I have a bridge being fixed down the road, so if you hear that's the noise in the background. But feelings of frustration, it straight up just sucks that weddings you either had to postpone, or ultimately cancel overall. But it's just disappointing to plan for a year with your family, with your friends, your planners, your vendors, and then having that excitement build up. I was about between 5 and 6 weeks when I decided to postpone, and then that incline just went doosh, and it's sad. I definitely cried a couple of times about it. So it's a little devastating. And to have all of that taken away, our couples are just really bummed out, and they're in shock, I'd say, is a good word to put it. It's a little shocking.
Yeah, and I feel like, for a range of couples, whether they're local couples here, whether it be Oahu, Maui, Big Island, Kauai, I mean, everyone is going through different challenges, but all almost the same challenges as well. I mean, we have definitely been riding emotional roller coasters with everybody. But the most important thing to note is no one, has the solid answers, and everyone just kind of has to be okay with that. But what we do have is a support network for our couples. I mean, we are doing everything in our power to try and make this transition as easy as it can be. We know that to come to the decision to have to postpone is a huge one as it is. So anything outside of that, it's like almost that term called decision fatigue. You just like, you make one big decision and then you can't really do anything after that. So for ABC, we've been assisting all of our couples regardless of the package booked, whether it's a simple day of, or of course, up to the larger, like full planning help that we offer, to help everybody postpone their events. So all you got to do is give us a couple dates, move it on, and go from there. So we know everyone's in shock and there's a bit of grief, but overall, I think that we're seeing a turn in the excitement, and that's kind of what we want to focus on, is just bringing that positivity and those butterflies back into the wedding planning process for everyone.
So I know we talked about this. We actually went over this whole like rehearsal thing. We kind of brainstormed on what we were going to talk about, and I know it was actually have this, but after talking to you guys like the day before on that Friday, the information you guys were talking about was just amazing. Just so I felt like we had to kind of push it back, promote it more, because just the info. I mean, we can just actually send this to more people and you can help more people. But
Mhm.
I know, what is it that the first step to take, like if you're planning a wedding now that your wedding's postponed, what is the first step that you guys can take actively?
Well, first step is always just self-check. We feel like even though the active steps are, of course, to take certain moves, like we're huge advocates of like, am I okay? Am I just pushing through this because I'm stressed and I have no idea what else to do? Or am I actually feeling good about, moving these steps forward? So, I mean, I think Julie, had even taken some time off just to not even think about the wedding. And I think if you want to elaborate on that, I felt like that was a really great tip.
Yeah, so for couples who are in the postponement phase, whether you've picked a new date or not, we really suggest just taking it easy, take a break, because you're, first of all, you're dealing with the thoughts of rescheduling and picking up your wedding and moving it to another date. So that's already so overwhelming. So taking a break, and I actually had my family members, my sister, kind of had to like self-check me and say, Julie, you need to stop going in circles. You're making yourself a little crazy. Just stop thinking about it. I'm like, okay, you're right. So taking a break is really necessary to just go through your feelings and the grieving process of the first wedding date. And then when you're feeling put together and rejuvenated, then you can start thinking about the next steps.
Yeah. But from there, the first step that we like to consider is, depending on when you postponed to, the entire day is typically affected just based on, like, let's just hypothetically say that you had a, April wedding. Sunset times right now are much different than they would be, let's just say, in October. So in the case that you've postponed your wedding a handful of months, adjusting your timeline with either your coordinator or even just kind of considering now what time the sunset is could affect things like your ceremony time or just overall day plans. You want to make sure you're still getting the most out of your entire day. So going from there to consider that. Additionally, just reviewing your venue policies, or just, if you don't already have them, getting updated agreements from your vendors or updated, details that reflect your new date, so that everyone's on the same page, and there's no missed communications based on the actual postponement.
And then also there was a thing that there goes the, there goes the bridge again. It's nice to know that
Sorry.
they're doing some work on this free time when nobody's on the roads. But I know we were talking about it too the last time too, Julie, that now you actually have more time to prepare, right? You're saying that people do have more time to prepare now and they can actually start working on things that weren't as high on the priority list, right?
Yes. So with the time that you have, even if it's you're postponing 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a whole year, you're kind of thinking of what can you do with this time. You can things that were lower on your priority list, like for me, creating favors or having favors for my guests was a little bit more on a lower priority for me. But now that I have time, maybe I can start DIYing things, and the another year of planning that I have, I can have some DIY favors. There's lots of things that couples can do now. More DIYs, choreographed dances, just taking time to polish up all those details. And there's lots of different things that couples can be adding to their weddings.
Well, and I also wanted to mention I also wanted to mention that, oftentimes when couples start a wedding, they have a budget in mind, right? And sometimes you stick right within that budget. Sometimes it goes a little bit over. Maybe you're kind of trying to work yourself into like a how can we pay for all these things that we were hoping for. So, the time frame is almost a blessing because you have the opportunity to perhaps save some more, maybe to make some more money in that way, maybe even just use less credit cards, whatever the circumstance may be. I feel like that's somewhat of a blessing in disguise as well. Because, hey, maybe there was like, an extra add-on for maybe some flowers that you just didn't have the extra couple $100s for, or wasn't going to prioritize that. But hey, you have a little bit of time, work a little bit harder if you have the opportunity to, and then be able to treat yourself with that in some way. So looking at it in that sense too is really good.
So Julie, what are some of the things that you decided to work on now that you have more free time, as you plan for your wedding?
More DIY. I'm definitely a DIYer, making my own signs. I'm putting together all of my decor, which are in bins, and they're just stored in my laundry room right now. But the favors, like I said, I think maybe practicing our dance a little bit. We definitely weren't prepared for that. We practiced in the kitchen, but now maybe we can do something a little bit more fun.
So you had a choreographed dance that you guys were going to do?
No, not at all. I'm thinking that maybe we can be a little bit more choreographed now. We have some more time to practice our dance. But, then there's some things I haven't even thought about yet. It's been, when did I decide on my new date? April 6th. So it's only been 10 days since I've decided on my new wedding date. So I did that, and now I'm kind of in this another break on just taking a break from wedding planning, and then I'll start revisiting things. But reviewing my timeline is definitely something I'm going to do next, and make sure the sunset time looks good. Now I have another chance to review my program if I want to change anything, take things out, or add things. So it's almost like having another blank slate. So no one else knows what the wedding was supposed to be like. So if I make any changes, it's going to be on our side.
Well, that's good. Because like you're saying, like when we were talking about it too, yeah, sunset's gonna change. It depends what time of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to take sunset photos or anything else. Also venues laying off a lot of people right now. A lot of coordinators at the venues, they're not working. So how long is that gonna take for them to just get back working again, right? So it's gonna take a while before events do start up again. So reviewing those, just the agreements with any hotel or any venue would be probably good. They probably have new agreements too due to COVID-19, right? They're already taking more steps into being more cautious and safe. So that's also a really good one.
Yeah, and I think that's a question that we tend to get a lot is, certain venues, I would say, have stricter policies in general, whether it be like a hotel or whatever other establishment, it really just depends. But for those couples that might be listening that perhaps have not yet postponed and maybe you're trying to see how it goes, there's a lot of questions surrounding how that happens. Just know that all vendors are being very flexible. A contract might say one thing in regards to perhaps non-transferability or anything of that nature, but talk to them, because many venues and vendors have made slight exceptions based on some previously stated contracts and such. So it's always good just to double check. But again, for those that are either re-signing agreements for a postponed date or amending anything, taking a peek through it all will be super helpful to see where you guys can protect yourselves.
So do you feel like that would be kind of like one of the first steps also, is just reaching out to the vendors or anybody else that um, you hired, right? A venue, of course, and also vendors, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, assuming your postponement is complete, what that could mean to different people is that you change the date with the venue, and then you let your vendors know that there was a new date. And assuming everyone was free at this time, you're likely currently sitting on verbal agreements with everybody. Like, yeah, we're free. We'll put you down. Yeah, we changed you in the calendar. But as a bride or a groom, the next step would really just be to collect the formal documents to back up that change, just to assure that you have the amendment, you have the new invoice with your new date, you have a handful of things that just help with all of that.
And of course, getting new like contracts too. If you have like old contracts on your old day, it's best to get those contracts updated.
Definitely, and pay attention to any updates that may have been made. I think if you're a vendor listening, now it's been an eye-opening experience for all, and I would say that you probably realize, like, oh, my contract is super solid, or oh, maybe I should probably fix a couple things here and there, just for protection of themselves, but also the couples too. Because everyone wants to assure that everyone can benefit and be protected by what has happened and what could potentially happen in the future. So overall, just keep an eye, cross compare, and ask a friend if you need help too.
All right. So is there any other things you feel like you can throw in there that you feel like would be important for couples to know? What kind of throughout your experience as planners, because as planners, man, you guys gotta like go through all of I all of these different things. Like I feel really grateful, every time we work with planners, because you're like the first line people go to before they get to us. And you guys have all these questions they ask you guys. Any question or concern that comes up all the time, or majority of the time with couples.
Yeah, Julie.
I had to unmute it because the bridge is pretty loud over here. You know, as we've been taking care of couples in the reschedulement process, people see it, have different perspectives on how they're taking it on their side, how couples are taking it, their parents and their families. And some are like, okay, we understand. Some refunds are non-refundable. We're okay. What's the next steps? Okay, thank you. And then some couples are upset, and it's definitely valid that they're going through those feelings and being angry and trying to find answers and trying to get their money back. But it's no one's fault that this pandemic has happened. It's not the couple's fault, and it's not the vendor's fault either that refunds are non-refundable, and that they're keeping that money for all of the work that they've already done to build up to the wedding day, the prep, putting the details together. I know you, Jase, you have your songs and your playlist that you must work on. For us planners, we have timeline details and confirming with vendors that we're doing as we're getting closer to the wedding day. So just taking a deep breath and just knowing that we're all in this together and we're all just trying to provide solutions for everyone.
How about you, Natalie? Did you find out anything on your end when when the couples called you and asked you?
Yeah. I mean, I think in our experience and just what we've dealt with so far, we already have so much knowledge of what has happened, even though it's only been, a handful of weeks. I feel like not to say that we're experienced in a global pandemic and how it's affected the industry, but we definitely have been thrown into it much like everyone else and other vendors and things. Our perspective of chatting with couples is allowing them to, to have those moments of grief, of anger, of frustration. Everyone goes through the ebbs and flows of all of that, but remaining resilient, confident, and pushing things forward is our goal. That's how we communicate with everyone. For those that don't have coordinators, it's okay. It really is. It comes down to like what steps are we taking, the steps that you guys can take. I think the main thing about having a coordinator is that you can put all of that energy into those individuals to help you through this. And I think that that's been my biggest, I guess the compliment that we've received is that this is such an emotional time, both just for the sake of the wedding, but then even just the financial side of things. Some individuals are very blessed to have essential jobs that are able to continue to provide. Some are not in that same boat. So there are so many different factors that not even one person can understand. So all we can really do and suggest that you guys do is just, look ahead, look at your plan, try and give yourself a break in regards to, be understanding with yourself that you're not going to take every piece of advice, or that you can't do it all. You can't, be okay and just go forward. But eventually the goal is to keep your head up and just move through. Contacting vendors, contacting the venue, doing all those things is a part of the logistics of movement. But after that point, just give yourself some patience and allow people to help you, because now is the time where I'm sure many would love to. And if you have that trust and whatnot, then I would say take everyone up on it.
I know part of the planning is to kind of look up different sites and all of that too. And I know that there's a lot of resources that we have here that couples can look at. Let's go to the first one. Let me see if I can put it up here.
Sure.
The first one. How about the textyourguest.com? That's one of them that you're talking about, right?
Yes, so this is one that popped up on my Instagram feed actually, and I shared it with our team, and then we started sharing it with our couples. I haven't myself gone into the app, but from my understanding, you can mass text all of your guests just with updates like, hey, we've postponed, we don't have a new date yet, please stand by. Or once you do have a new date, you can start sending the updated information to your guests. And I know there's different apps that are very similar to it, that you can give your guests updates, even, as you're getting closer with updates and just information about your wedding. So just using tools out there to just help you with the communication, whether you only have 40 guests or you have 300 guests that you have to update with. So these are just some of the tools that we're offering. And also rely on your friends and your family. For me, I split my guest list with me and my sister, and she contacted half and I did the other half, just to make it easy and quick, and I didn't have to do it all by myself. So relying on the people in your circle is another tip that we have.
Definitely. And for those that, again, are kind of struggling with like, oh, how am I going to let my guests know? I think locally, most of like brides who are here or wherever, they may rely on, like, they may do more word of mouth. They may do formal invitations, but with a date and time that may now change, the question is like, what do we do? How do we fix that? A big recommendation, if you don't already have one, would be to create a free website. There are tons across the internet, Zola.com, there's Wedding Wire, The Knot has some, there's one called withjoy.com, and all of these are options and resources that you guys can share, because to communicate to every individual guest a handful of details, it's a lot, versus if you're able to communicate to each guest, hey, check the website for updates. That will be an area that you can mass update many individuals, and as long as you're able to potentially share that with your family or friends, I would say that would make it pretty easy. Lastly, there is a resource called paperlesspost.com. And this is a resource for brides and grooms who maybe want to, initially take the route of sending paperless physical invitations or save the dates. It generates beautiful cards and kind of an evite where it opens up as though it's a wedding invitation, and it's really beautiful. But there are options for that so that you can, maybe instead of mass texting your group and your guests, if you happen to have everyone's emails, then you just mass email everybody. And then that way that further helps with the communication process for any changes. Overall, the goal is just to let everyone know. And I think that's likely the biggest, it's just the biggest task, along with just postponing the wedding. Like contacting everyone to let them know is a whole nother ball game, especially when it comes to local weddings with so many individuals planning to attend.
All right, so I wonder if there's any questions, because I know we're on Facebook Live and this is the first webinar that we have, just in general, with Eclipse Effect events. Thank you guys for being the first ones on. Let's see if there's any questions that somebody wants to ask here that maybe we can answer on, just weddings being postponed. Yeah, type it in now if you have any questions.
Yeah, but no, Jase, I mean, so for everyone that's listening, and we'll find out, I'm sure, this is the first of many webinars, it sounds like, that Eclipse Effect Events is going to be putting out. We are wedding planners, wedding coordinators, and so we have unique perspectives in certain ways, but I know that there's going to be many other individuals or categories of vendors coming on. So, if you're a business or if you're a vendor on the Big Island or wherever, and you have interest in collaborating, I mean, I think this platform is pretty amazing, and Jase and his company are incredible. If you're on Big Island and you don't have a wedding DJ yet, you just found him. He's right here.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we have Lauren Michaels. She's one of your partners, right, at Aloha Bridal Connection.
Yes, Lauren is our ABC's other co-owner and founder of ABC.
She wants to know, how is the morale of vendors on the Big Island? Well, I think the morale on for vendors on the Big Island is kind of the same thing for, I guess, everywhere. Everybody is just now, when this whole COVID thing came up, and you guys probably felt that way too. It just it hit the wedding industry pretty hard, or just events industry in general, because I noticed, like, in maybe like in 2 or 3 days, I remember 10 events just canceling. And that was pretty immediately, once the governor or the president, I forgot who it was, but they were talking about having groups of 10 or less. That's the most you can have it. And then once social distancing went in, it was, you can't have any events at all. So a lot of the vendors are just kind of feeling the same way, where there's no events. So what's happening now? A lot of them are just kind of planning, ones that are in the future, keeping themselves busy. But yeah, morale is kind of the same everywhere. I think it's just not a lot going on. So we're spending time with family, and just kind of doing things, catching up on things that we didn't get to do before. Educating ourselves is another one. How about, like, just where you guys are at too, on Oahu and Kauai and everywhere else too? Isn't it the same thing?
Yeah, I'd say the wedding industry or the community on Kauai, we're definitely sticking together and just being supportive and calling each other if needed and for advice or support. But I know that word has been going around, and we've been joking, like, after this is all over, we can have a vendor party and just get together and catch up and just celebrate the end of this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on Oahu, I mean, everyone's in the same boat of how long this is going to last. And, for any couples listening, we all have no idea, but we have a pretty solid idea that within the next month or so, this is going to start to take, like, the tail down. It's really just going to start decreasing and hopefully not have too much more effect. But of course, we're all ready for whatever may happen. I would say that the morale will continue on. I think everyone's, kind of in the ebbs and the flows of their own emotion, but all in all, like, we're in this together. So the more that you can inspire yourself, educate yourself, whether you're a client, a vendor, it's just going to keep that positivity going. And I think that's what we all need right now in this time.
Yeah, I think just reaching out to others. I've been reaching out to a lot of different professionals in the industry, and it's it's kind of nice to know. I mean, well, not in a negative way, but it's nice to know that we're all facing kind of the same thing, so we understand each other. I think that's what the thing is. Since we understand each other, it feels like we support each other in the same way, and I believe we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got another question. So thank you very much, Lauren. She is on here. She's very talented also. She's one that has a lot of great ideas and very creative.
She is a badass. Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah. You pretty much say anything. Let's go to Dennis. Dennis here. He wants to know, will there will be a big rush to start reserving venues after COVID-19? How should couples plan for this? That's a very good one.
Yeah. Well, what we've been experiencing here on Oahu is there is a lot of limited dates kind of coming up. I mean, I think that the first thing on couples' minds is, okay, well, gosh, we have to postpone now. Let's just choose October, or let's just pick a date or pick a date. Having multiple dates is beneficial because many venues, especially on popular days such as Saturdays, may not be readily available. And I think that's been a big struggle for certain people, because I think it's about half of our couples in our experience have been immediately choosing a new few dates to cross check and just having it set, and then the other half of them are actually just kind of in this limbo time where they have not yet decided but are just waiting to see how things go before they do. So I think twofold to this question is, how should we prepare for this barrage of new bookings? But B, for each of the vendors, considering, be careful with this, because naturally everyone is trying to rebook and we all just want to be yes people given the circumstances. But, think about those months that are just going to be stacked. You have to gauge your own, abilities, and you want to make sure you're giving every single wedding that quality work. For example, like ABC, we have kind of a standard for, a certain number of weddings every month per person, because we know that that's manageable, that's doable. And with the postponements, we kind of have a little bit less say on when they postpone, because if it's in a best case scenario, we would of course love to keep it all managed. But hey, if there's a Friday and there's a Saturday date, we have the benefit of leaning on our team with our other lead coordinators to be able to help us and support us in that way. So if you're an individual business owner, just be careful and make sure that you're able to help yourself, but help the couples too.
Yeah, and to chime that in on a bride's perspective on rescheduling, for me in my situation, my venue almost prompted me to choose a new date. So I took about a week and a half to just chill out. And then she emailed me like, hey, when are you looking at? And I told her, the 2 months I was looking at. And then she gave me all the availability of the weekends in that time period, from maybe January to May. And then within 3 days, a lot of those weekends were taken. So I don't know if it's venues reaching out to their own couples, but as couples are choosing their new dates and having 3 or 4 of their preferred dates, I would also choose your maybe top 3 to 5 vendors that you absolutely have to have for those days. Because there might be a situation where not all of them will line up on the days that you want. So for me, it was the venue, the rentals, and my photographer, and I hit those 3 things. And then after that, I started to go down the list of the next vendors. So choosing your top vendors, I think, is also something that I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to tell, right? Because what I'm starting to see is a lot of people starting to book like in 2020 from here, like moving their days
Mm-hmm.
over. But it's hard to recommend to a couple whether to already choose your day right away, because I know it's going to be like at a certain time when everybody feels like the curve is being flattened and they're going to start to
Mm-hmm.
open up more things. People are going to start rebooking like in droves, right? So do you recommend them just kind of waiting on choosing the day, or already start to get a day in mind, just because people are, that 2020 is going to be just a popular day for weddings and events?
I think it depends to be island see slightly less volume than the weddings on Oahu. And so it's kind of case by case, but ultimately, you know, it's twofold. I think it kind of depends on your venue. If you have a very, very popular venue that is pretty much guaranteed booked out regardless, you should really consider what those dates look like and perhaps consider, what time frame that you're comfortable with postponing to. Um, I have a bride whose wedding was meant to be on 4/4, April 4th. And, she wanted to kind of quick fire just choose a new date as soon as possible, as in she wanted to have the wedding as soon as possible. But that's such a hard question to answer, so she had me postpone to the end of June, so like June 26th. Now as that date creeps up closer, she's realizing that, oh wow, maybe it was much too close. I think we're going to have to postpone again. What's going to happen? Like, will the vendors be understanding, or what's going to happen? And it, of course, everyone will postpone once more in the case that this goes on, but naturally you want to save yourself the emotional stride and just kind of maybe put some more effort into, if you need to wait, totally wait. um, in the case that we have couples who are completely okay with postponing an entire year. They're like, oh, if it didn't work this March, we're going to go for next March. With that in mind, the likelihood of there being available days next March is pretty high because it's a year later as compared to just a few months. So if your venue is, not too busy, then I would say you have time, you have flexibility, communicate with your venue manager and say, hey, let me know as things go on. If you have a certain date in mind, but you don't want to lock it in yet, maybe just say, hey, is there any way we can do a soft hold on this for us? Or is there any way that we can communicate? I mean, everyone will have different relationships with the establishments that you're dealing with. And thankfully, like Julie had a really great relationship with her venue manager and was able to say, hey, call me and talk to me about it. Like, let's figure it out.
When you booked, Julie, were they're pretty like good on postponing the wedding? Did like, no problem, here's the next days that we have available, or was it a little hard to do that?
No, it was definitely an easy process. I originally had emailed her to let her know that, hey, we're postponing. I'm probably going to take a few weeks to decide on a new date. And then she, just kind of checked in. She even gave me a call, which was really nice, to just talk to her on the phone, and she just wanted to check in and see how I was doing, and then just what my plans were, if I had any idea of months or even a specific date. And then that's where we did a little back and forth. And then even with the rental company, I was doing a little back and forth and then waiting for a call. And oh gosh, the anticipation of someone calling you back to say yes or no on something was killing me. But the whole process was definitely, it was okay. It's definitely hard to have the first date, oh, that one didn't work out, and then the second one worked out, so a win. But overall, all the vendors in the venue were very nice, very easy going. I text my photographer 3 times in a row. I'm like, I'm sorry I'm blowing you up, but I'm so excited to just figure out this new date. And when she called me back with the yes, I'm like, this is really, really silly, but I am totally crying. And she said, it's okay. So um, the process, and after I definitely locked in that date, it was relieving to just have it done. I can take a break and then go on to the next step. But it was an enjoyable process.
Yeah, I cannot imagine like how you must have been feeling at that time when, going on this emotional roller coaster up and down, finding out that you have to prepare for the wedding, and then really finding out that, okay, and it's not going to be that bad. We're gonna we're gonna I guess acceptance, right? And then excitement that
Mhm.
now it's now your vendors are all there, your venues all there. Must feel really good then, huh?
It does. It feels good to just know that it's locked in, and then I can take a break and worry about details in the next month. I can start working on DIYs later, but the relief was really good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So ask your questions inside the question box here. We're talking with Aloha Bridal Connections. We have Natalie Christensen and Julie Arii. Julie was actually going to be getting married. If you didn't, if you're just tuning in and joining us here, she's going to be getting married this month, and she had to postpone her wedding. So she has a very unique outlook on what's happening here too. So any more questions that we have?
Trying to think of other tips too to share in the meantime.
Yeah.
If your wedding date is, let's just say, coming up and it has not yet been, passed just yet, but you did have to make the decision to postpone, you need to get that day off work if you don't already have it off work, and just take the day for yourself and your fiance, whether it's just hanging out and doing home movies, or just really dive into that, and make a positive moment out of that day, because you guys were going to be spending that with family and friends. And although that might feel like, oh, such a bummer, it's a special time, and you guys want to be able to celebrate that still, because everyone is here to support you guys, and as much as it's sad, it's a blessing in a way, because you want to assure that your day is all about you guys. It's all about the family, the friends, the experience, and really, letting COVID have its moment. It's happening across the board. Just let it happen, and just know that you're going to regain that power, and you're going to regain that focus with a new date. But still, celebrate that moment together as much as you can, because in the end, it's not about the wedding. It's about the love that you guys share, and the symbolism of bringing that together in those types of days. So
Yeah, because when this is all over, there's still going to be events. We're still going to be able to celebrate with people,
mhm.
friends and family. Still going to be able to celebrate with you too during your wedding, and you're still going to be able to have that amazing wedding, right?
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes is actually from Julie. Last time I talked to you, Julie, you said the comeback is always better than the setback.
Yes. I saw that on, of course, Instagram, on a template that was used for letting guests know that you have a date change. So naturally, I put that on mine. I haven't sent it out yet, but it's just a way to have fun with it, because once your next, your wedding date does come and everyone's together, it's going to be that much more of a celebration where everyone actually gets to be together, and you can hug and kiss and hang out and enjoy really good food and music. And yeah, the comeback will be better than this setback.
And speaking of the comeback, I noticed that there was a lot of just of the what do they call the invitations? You know, the wedding invitations. I know this is that a lot of companies are having just little deals on reprinting. Do you find is that something that you have to go through also?
For myself, I'm going to be choosing to do an electronic update. Just it's a little easier. I don't have to spend some money on printing. It's easy to either email or text. So that's going to be the route that I go. But I know that for ABC, Nat, do we have a discount code with Minted? So if other brides who are wanting to do new printouts, we do have a code.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll try and pull that up right now as we're talking. But yeah, I mean, we are, huge advocates for trying to make things easier for everyone. I actually had a couple brides reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to postpone, but I was about to send out these invitations that I just spent a ton of money on. Like, WTF, what am I going to do? Because it was, some people spend a couple $100s on invitations, and for it to just go to waste, it's so heartbreaking. So what I had recommended instead was that if you have yet to send out your invitations, or there's a change, you don't have to go in and like scratch it out, don't do that, but you can easily add in an additional slip into there, kind of like an RSVP card, perhaps the RSVP date will naturally change, but you can add in a little slip that is kind of like, postponed, canceled, or whatever the terminology may be. But that small additional card is likely less of an investment than an entire reproduction of anything that you may have had. Some will opt to go the entire route to replan and redo invitations, but there's many creative ways to do so. We had a bride, and actually one of our other ABC girls, one of our team members, who is getting married, and she had to postpone as well. And she has a real affinity for beautiful invitations and lettering, so she actually spent quite a bit on what her invitations would be, what they would look like. It was all very custom, and they were already out, they had been sent, and the thought of having to resend something like that was a pretty big investment. So she had reached out to the individual who helped her with her invitations, and they kind of created like a blank slate and took a picture of it, a styled photo of like a little bit of ribbon, and had her original invitation, but had edited the date manually on there so that it looked like it was still meant and fixed for that invitation. But that PDF essentially is what she sent to her guests as a revamp of the date. There's so many creative ways to do it, but printed options like minted.com is a really popular resource. And essentially they have different codes for wedding planners. So as I try and pull this up, I believe it's, for anyone who's listening, it's it's WED PLA and then Aloha BC. We will put it in the comments below for the accurate code, but for anyone who would like either 35% off save the dates or change the dates, or 25% off invitations, you are more than welcome to use that code.
Wait, wedding planners have their own codes for discounts?
Some invitation companies may reach out to companies and say, hey, for any of your couples who want to use this code, feel free to send it along. So yeah, we usually just send it to all of our couples and say, hey, if you want to do invitations or things. We only have it with minted.com, but yeah, it's a great resource, and we share it with everyone that we can. And it's a gift. Our gift to you is, if you don't have a wedding planner, you can use that code, and hopefully it helps you guys in your process. Like I said, we will tag it down below so that it's spelled correctly for anyone who's interested.
Well, I didn't know you guys have like your own codes. That's good. I guess that's another reason why to reach out to a wedding planner, is to take use of these discounts that you guys get, right?
Yes, definitely.
And another thing was that it was so it was I just went blank. See, we're doing this live, so I had this question that I was gonna ask.
That's okay. We're here to help everyone out and make sure that we can all keep each other on check.
I mean, if you do have a question, we have a few more minutes here. You feel free to add it in here. I know we're at a kind of a weird time at 2 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. We decided to do this. Well, actually, I decided to kind of put this on this time because for the couples that are Pacific Coast time, and I think that's like 6 something there right now.
Mhm.
And then for Eastern time, Eastern Standard Time, I think it's about 8 o'clock, 8 something, now 8:53 over there. So that's why we decided to have it at this weird time for people in Hawaii.
Something that I've had a couple of my clients have asked me about are their honeymoons. So they've already pre-planned their honeymoon. Some are able to get refunds from their flights and maybe the agents that they have booked with. But if it works out better for you to go on that trip, you can go on a pre-wedding moon. Like a baby moon, but a wedding moon. So just to take that time for yourselves and enjoy your company. And if traveling does become okay and during that time for you, then I'd say, hey, take it and enjoy it. Don't let it go to waste. But yeah, that's something that some of my couples have kind of wondered about, like, what about our honeymoon? So it kind of just depends on your situation, but if it's before your wedding, take it. If you can push it back and do it after your rescheduled wedding date, then that'd be a fun time to go to.
And I know, Julie, you were talking. You were talking about when you had to take that breather and just take a break. You went camping, right? When you were planning.
Yes. So my sister and my brother-in-law have their a cabin that they lease, and they went up, and 4 days turned into 6 days. So it was really nice to unplug, not be on social media, not be connected to the news. I mean, we did call grandma from down the hill and got some updates, but to just relax, be with my immediate circle and my family was really relieving and just homey, to unplug and be out in nature and be with the kids and run around and enjoy ourselves with good food and drinks and just out in nature. So if you're in that break time, I recommend just being outside, unplug, turn your phone off, don't look at social media. It feels really good. I'm ready to go back.
Oh, all right. Dennis was asking here. Let me see. Posting. So will you have a Facebook post recapping the topics discussed today? Yes. Well, we'll actually have this video. We're gonna actually have this video for playback a little bit later. Once I get this up, we're gonna put it on YouTube. It's gonna be able to be shared to wherever you want to share it to. Share it with somebody that you think could use this. I know not everybody could join us right now as we do the live one, but somebody that you feel like could use this, maybe a couple that's getting married, maybe a friend or a family member that is going through this right now, or even if you're in a wedding party, one of the bridesmaids or groomsmen, you can actually share this with the couple, and hopefully that they can use this for information, to help them a little bit later. Let's see.
Definitely.
Oh, here it is. Here's your
Oh, yeah. So if you saw me looking down to the side, it was because I was posting the code and everything on there. So for anyone who's listening or interested or similarly knows someone who's getting married or anything like that, feel free to use ABC's code to get some discounts during this time. I mean, for anyone, kind of the nonchalant plug, if anyone is looking for a wedding coordinator, I know that oftentimes we may not be as considered in the budget, just given that we don't provide as seemingly tangible of a service as compared to someone like Jase, who's got his DJing, his lighting, and all these things. But we are doing, lots of discounts right now for couples who are affected by COVID, who may be postponing their wedding at this time. Definitely for those that are just jumping back into it, or maybe even just need help with only the postponement process. We are totally here to help anyone and everyone that we can, just because we know how difficult it is, and we're more than happy to give you guys that guidance and assistance, however it may be. So just shameless plug. We have to go there.
No, I think planners are important. They kind of keep you on track. You guys are organized. The organization part is really tough when you have a lot going on your mind, right? A lot of couples, when they're getting married, all of these things are bombarding them, information of what they got to do. And when you have like a checklist you keep in your mind or you write down, it gets a little overwhelming when you look at it. So I feel like planners really organize things, put you on track, and becomes a guide for you on your big day moving forward, and gives you advice and helps you create. So planners are very important.
Definitely. Well, as our DJs, when it comes to reception planning and just the overall flow, once you guys walk in those reception doors, like people like Jase just usually take over from there, and they are incredible. They're outside of a photographer, who kind of leads you through the morning and getting to the ceremony or getting to other locations. I would say that equally as important as having an incredible DJ and MC, because they're going to make the night super memorable, really fun, and just take all of your stress and worries away.
Wow, that's good. Thank you very much. Yeah, DJs are, yeah, they play an important part in how the wedding
Yeah.
goes.
Good DJ.
They're the energy of the reception.
Definitely.
So, we're going to wrap things up right now. Do you guys have anything else you want to get out there? You think some of the things that we didn't get to discuss or cover before we end the broadcast here?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, ABC has a lot of resources on our website, alohabridalconnections.com. For those that are our clients, but those that aren't, we are doing updates on COVID in the industry. We're doing updates on kind of how to handle the postponements. We just have guidance that we're putting out right now as much as we can. And similarly on our Instagram, at ABC Weddings. We're just trying to give everyone as much resources as we can for those who have time to scroll through or time to look and read things of that nature.
Yeah, and I just recommend for all of those couples out there who are dealing with the reschedulement and postponing and all of this, all the feelings you're going through are very valid. For me personally, I go through waves where I'm like, oh yay, have a new wedding date, and I'm planning now. And then now that I'm just about a little over a week away from my original wedding date, I get a little sad. I'm a little like, oh well, I would have got married in a week. But so it's okay to go through those ups and down feelings. Don't feel like you're going crazy. It's totally natural, and just know that your feelings are valid, and just take this time to enjoy time with family and take a break. And then, like Natalie said, our team is here for support if needed. And find the silver lining in your situation. Everyone's gonna have different circumstances with their wedding, the different types of vendors, the venue, time of year, but what can you do to make the situation better and use your time for your DIYs, practice your dance, work out more. There's so many things that you could be doing and adding to your new scheduled date. So I just say keep the positivity up, and that's all that we can do right now.
Yes.
Perfect. Well said. So one last time, where can they reach you guys?
Yes, so our website, of course, it's alohabridalconnections.com, but more popularly and easy to access, I would say, would be our Instagram. So it's at ABC Weddings. Very easy to remember. We chose the business name and therefore the acronym on purpose, so that it is very simple for everyone to just find us and be able to share. So whether it be inspiration you're looking for or even just resources and guidance, please do check us out and reach out to us. We're here and we're happy to give you guys that help.
ABC Weddings, Aloha Bridal Connections, thank you guys very much for having us here today, and just sharing that knowledge and that positivity with people. So enjoy the rest of you guys' day, all right?
Thank
All
you
right,
so,
thank you,
so
Jase.
much, Jase. Thank you.
And
Take
from
care, everybody.
and from the famous words of Julie Arii, the comeback is always better than the setback.